The Jacob Media Sports Network, in partnership with 97.3 ESPN, brings you the Mays and Eytan Show.
Middays with Harry Mays and Eytan Shander.
Now, it's the Midday Show with Harry Mays and Eytan Shander on 97.3 ESPN Radio.
Friday home, Parks Casino, specifically this amazing sports book where if you haven't had the chance, then what are you waiting for? This is up with anything you'll find across the nation, the wraparound technology. All TVs are up right now as we're gearing for a huge day and night in the world of sports that you can continue to gamble on. And we maintain that it's very easy to get a risk-free bet courtesy of us here. Go to parkscasino.com/PA and use our promo code SWEEP, SWEEP, parkscasino.com/PA, our promo code SWEEP, and you'll get a risk-free bet of up to $500. Now, as I said yesterday, Harry will be back with us on Monday, but it's not a solo show. In fact, teased this throughout the day, and I dropped a little hint, a little nugget, because I am honored and privileged to be joined by a man who coined a phrase that's going to be top three no matter where it ends in the history of radio phrases. Mr. Rob Ellis.
Let's get it back to the Eagles.
Unbelievable to have you here.
Autonomous,
so yes.
My boy. It's been a while, man. What's up?
Yes.
You can't see us right now. Maybe you can. We're hugging.
Yes.
There's a lot of stuff going on right now. There's
a lot of bro energy back and forth.
No,
listen, this is you and I have crossed paths at now the three major radio stations.
That's true.
In the Delaware. The only thing that's missing is doing a stint at DEL now.
And we somehow live to tell.
Right, exactly.
So
right.
if I'm in for Harry today, I should just feign like I'm interested in some bogus golf tournament in Japan.
Yes.
Is that what I should do if I'm acting like Harry?
You know him way too well.
Yes.
So
unfortunately,
at 1 o'clock, if you actually, and it would be in Harry mode to actually have some money on it too, right? Now, not put it out there in public so much until it actually comes to fruition.
Yes.
And then at about 1:05, when we're halfway through the interview with Mike K, NJ.com, you can just check out for the next 10, 15 minutes. Watch your golf. Bet on the guy. This is the Chinese National Open or the
Yes.
Okay.
Both, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know where it is.
I couldn't tell you.
It's across the globe right now. Now, you saw the guy who got suspended for 3 years, right?
That's huge.
For flipping off a fan.
Can you imagine if that was those kind of standards applied to the U.S.?
Russell Westbrook did that here in Philadelphia.
Our buddy gave him a nice double.
Now, you know that guy.
I know.
You said our buddy.
No.
Listen, you take as many calls and interaction on social media.
We could be buddies if that's the case.
You never know.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of which, just to catch you up to speed here, this is a show, and I have to thank Mike Gill, and I know that he's probably like, what? Shander's thanking me. Mike Gill has allowed us to do really whatever we want.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's just because he has total trust and faith in us. He is out of the building from noon to 2 and really doesn't hear. Or
hours.
Has just given up the idea of changing Harry and myself's mind. Notice I live with Harry. Doing anything different. But feel free at any point to bring something up to go off the rails. Nobody's going to check you. Nobody's going to tell you to go back to the Eagles. You can talk as much gambling, as much fantasy. You can talk as much about what's going on in your life. You can promote anything going on with you as well. At no point is the clock. You might hear a music, and that's going to be a basically key for a break. And then Josh Henning, our producer, who does a fantastic job, is going to yell at me and say, break. Because we always talk over the music.
So
they're all caught up now. We can do whatever we want.
You and I, in discussing, yesterday, talk about what we may be discussing today on the show. We're going through some of our old war stories, right? And I still have some scars, man. And I'm still, every once in a while, it's like there's the electric fence as I'm trying to get out and escape. And there's key phrases and key words that just and they get me every once in a while. So,
oh man,
that's where I'm at. I'm glad to hear you say that because I've been traumatized.
Wait a second. Now
I'm like a rescue animal, Eytan.
I have an idea, and I wonder if I should just keep it to myself based on what you're saying. No, I know, and this idea is based on what you just said.
I'm talking about a couple years ago.
No, I know. No. You're in a great situation now, and we thank that situation for allowing you to be here. I'm saying more so where I should have done this ahead of time, and because I didn't, shame on me.
No, let's do it on the fly, man.
Well, I wonder if I should tell you on the fly and do it, or if I should just have Josh and Mike do it. So I'm going to tell you on the fly.
All right.
I was going to have Mike Gill, our program director and afternoon drive host, record let's get it back to the Eagles.
Okay.
In his Mike Gill deep voice, and have Josh drop that throughout the show when we are really going off the rails.
Yes,
yeah. Just to make you feel like home.
That's a good idea, actually. I like that it's still being used.
Are you kidding me?
In my wake.
It's still being used at the other
Posthumously,
place.
it's still being used.
They took out everybody's drops except
somehow that survived.
It did.
And my street sign is still being ripped off, but that's a whole different story.
Well, I shame on you for not getting royalties ahead of time.
I'm telling you, man.
Josh, real quick, before we dive into this Eagles and this line and this spread that everybody's going back and forth on, can we have Mike Gill please do that? Did he already leave the building? Thank you, sir.
These guys are on fire,
I'm
man.
telling you, man. I told you, don't believe anything Harry says. These guys are great. They're professionals.
Believe me.
All right. There's really nothing about this game that gets you nervous.
Let's get it back to the Eagles.
That's pretty good.
It's not bad.
I like the different inflections.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna
Well, it
utilize.
had to be Gill. Like, Gill, he's
got the announcer voice.
Exactly.
For sure.
And he's not going to be Nahagan. Like, that's a different voice.
Thank God.
No, trust me, he's not.
Oh.
But there's nothing.
You guys talked about music at 11:15. We lost 5 listeners.
See, you know the funny thing about it is Harry's been doing that now for 6 months, where people probably in like Absecon
are like, what the hell are these guys talking
they actually know what you're talking about
now they know.
because he's been doing it so long.
All right, good.
So, yeah, you can make as
I'll
many
carry that
references
torch,
as
the Harry
possible.
torch. Yeah.
All right, here's another thing, too. Let me mention this. 609-403-0973. So we have a text board here.
Yes.
We have our buddy Glenn in EHT who calls us. We don't even give out the number. We don't really take calls. We have it open, but we don't really take calls. It's open for people, but we have a guy, Glenn, who's a great Steelers fan, football fan, who kind of calls every now and again. But the reality is that the show has morphed into social media at R. Ellis Sports at Shender Show and mostly the text board. So the text board, as you remember, working on a show and a station that had a text board.
I do.
This thing is out of control.
Well, yours is actually legit, where the other one was a premise of a text board.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Hey, guys, I love your show. You guys should honestly be a national broadcast. I'll be at the Giants game this Sunday. I'll send pictures of the dimes Danny will be dropping. Go Giants. You see, this is the type of trolling.
I like the over in that game, by the way.
We got a lot of trolling. You're over on that, huh?
Because I think the Vikings, it's been such a tumultuous week for them where Thielen basically lays out Kirk Cousins. I mean, straight up lays him out. Right. Cousins apologizes for Thielen laying him out. Stephon Diggs goes AWOL and doesn't deny he went AWOL. He said, there's some truth in every rumor. You're like, what? So even though Zimmer detests it, he's going to have to step into 2019 and throw the ball this week. I think they're going to throw a lot. They're going to get theirs, and the Giants will get theirs, and it'll be an overplay. I'm already giving you at 12:07 a play already.
I love it. Now you're going to step in for Harry. Everything remains the same. We'll do the Step It Up picks at 1:30 with Josh. He's on fire, 5-1 last week. Rob's going to take over for Harry and give us a 2-team parlay. It can be anything you want, baseball, college, football, NFL, whatever. That's fine. We'll do that this show as well. And again, Mike Kay is going to join us at 1 o'clock. Speaking of lines, I don't know if I've talked myself into this. I saw the tweet from Adam Kaplan earlier this morning about the sobering reality of the cornerbacks that are going to be out there. And I get it. Luke Falk. But I keep painting this picture in my head in which the Eagles are up comfortably 18, 19 points with 7.5 left. They punt the ball because they're running the clock out, for the last 4 or 5 minutes. And we've seen this before. Hey, special teams play short field. Le'Veon Bell breaks a big run. All of a sudden, one of those cornerbacks gives up a score. Mm-hmm. That's a backdoor cover.
Yep.
Rob, at no point does that mean the Eagles are in peril and concerned. You can just look at it separately and say the Eagles got to win like they should have, but you can kind of see that based on the personnel.
Smells like a stay away. I'll give you a scenario.
A stay away
in which I think it happened. So you're right. The Eagles are comfortable. This thing's looking over, but you still have Craig James out there. No disrespect to him. He made the play of the game in Green Bay. But he's out there, and he's on a guy like Robbie Anderson who can run, okay? And he gives up a 50-yarder. And all of a sudden, the Jets score. There's 35 seconds left, but it's still a 17-point lead. It's a 12-point lead at that point for the Eagles. Onside kick fails, Eagles get the ball and sit on it, and that's the final. I mean, that could very well be the case. We had one of the all-time just brutal beats last night in the Temple game.
Yeah, what happened?
I mean, as bad as it gets.
What happened?
So
I mean, that's essentially the scenario that would play out here.
Yeah, I mean, East Carolina's trying to do the old hook and ladder, just pitch it around nonsense. The kid pitches it, Temple recovers and scores with no time left, which would have ensured the cover.
Right.
But they said his forward progress had stopped, and it didn't count. So East Carolina, on a garbage TD on the previous possession, ends up covering. Here, I mean, it was a bad one.
Now, it took that much to cover the spread, though, right?
Right.
It took the actual play.
Temple needed that score to cover the spread.
Right.
Correct.
So they were already down from that.
They were down, but it would have covered for them.
Unbelievable the way in which that turned around. And again,
And the lights went out, too. It was a bizarre.
That delay really hurt Temple, I thought, right?
It was a great sports night last night, by
Yeah.
the way. Today's going to be incredible. I mean, today is going to be flat out awesome with 4 baseball games and everything else
College now
that's
has
going
turned
on.
into a great Friday night, right?
Exactly right. But,
So you're saying last night with sports, though, with
it was
the
awesome.
NFL game as
I mean,
well.
You had 2 NLDSs. You had Temple, if you like me and you care.
Well, no, trust me. Like I said, Harry talked.
You sit next to Harry every day. You got to care about
Yeah,
that.
but we actually, we talk with Coach Carey now for on a Monday before every home game.
Right.
So that's we've integrated Temple, man. We're a Philadelphia show here.
I know, man, and yet another great Thursday night NFL game, which we never had in years past, and it feels like every week is a really good game now on Thursday night.
You see, I didn't bring that up because I got bit in the ass on the money line. I was pissed off. Now, listen, I'm not at this point, man. And last night's a good case study, and I'm glad you brought this up because I think Eagles are separate. Like, we can talk about misplays, bad calls, getting ripped off. When it's our team, it's separate. I'm not going to hold myself or anybody accountable. But I feel like we see so many questionable, shady, bad calls week in, almost like game in and game out, that I can no longer attribute that to the bad loss, the bad beat. At this point now, it's only the play. So, yeah, I'm pissed off at Greg Zuerlein because the guy made the longest kick in, I think, playoff history last year. You got to be able to make that kick.
Dude, you can't push that right on a 44-yarder in
with the money line. I don't care that you
cover.
cover.
I'm with you, man. And he's my fantasy kicker, so I'm not happy with him either.
Wait a second. Is this the yearly league, or are you doing dailies?
This one's the yearly where I have him, but that hurt me last night.
How many yearly leagues are you in? 1.
I trimmed it down, dude. At one point in my life, I was in 5. I'm like, what am I doing? It was a full-time job to enter lineups and make transactions. I'm like,
how are you in 5?
It was when I was young and
you
dumb.
have kids. I was going to say, like, you have a family.
Yeah, I basically was like, hey, kids, fend for yourself. I got to put in my fantasy lineups. Go feed yourself.
Say, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just asking.
No, it was out of control.
Because at that point, too, you reach that moment of you're starting guys that you're going up against in other leagues.
Yeah, it's absurd. I went into a 12-step, and now I got it down to 1.
No. Listen, I don't blame you at all. All right, so speaking of which, we'll throw a lineup around at some point, as we normally do on a Friday as well. I'm just saying, I don't know what else there really is about this game. It doesn't mean that, hey, let's focus on Chris Harris getting fired, the pitching coach, right?
Chris Young,
sorry. Yeah. I'm all focused on a cornerback coming here to Philadelphia.
I would like to focus on Chris Harris coming here.
I've done my best to try to avoid the nonsense, the circular discussion of the Philadelphia Phillies over the last 2 months, really. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know what the smoke signals for Rob Ellis, what that means for you as far as the firing or really like and it's just such a difficult. They can't even sever correctly.
It's a weird
right?
situation. So let's pick up on two of your points here. One, I think you have the perfect storm of a Thursday Eagles game in which they haven't played now in 8 days, and they're facing the Jets. So it's an impossible game to get really hyped for, right? So you're exactly right on
and
that.
I don't think it's a trap game. Like, hey, they're geared up for Minnesota.
No, I'm talking about just from we could come on here and fake it and lie to you as talk show hosts. Like, this is a critical game. Man. This game is huge.
Right.
Like, it was legit. It was legit.
Spread.
Yeah, last week was legit with the Packers. You lose that, you go to 1-3. That's legit. This is look. They're going to win this game. They're going to be fine. It's a spread. Now we're talking about whether it's going to be a cover or not.
13.5.
Yeah, and it's kind of stayed pretty steady there.
Yeah, 14, I think, and I saw it to 13.5.
Yeah, depending on where you're shopping here. But, I mean, I think more than anything else, but so with the sort of hard to dig in on storylines with the Eagles, the focus has been on the Phillies this week. So the latest is now, according to multiple reports, Chris Young, the pitching coach, is out. They've already fired in season their hitting coach.
Right.
And no decision whether or not Kapler is going to be retained yet. According to Jim Salisbury of NBC Sports Philadelphia, he says that they're focusing on the manager, not the front office. They're also retaining coaches, which would lead you to believe the manager's back. Like, I don't know what's going on. I'm telling you, the worst thing you can say as a talk show host is I don't know. But guess what? I don't know what the hell they're doing.
You know what? I'm not here to one up, but I wonder if I don't care is worse than I don't know.
It could be.
Because I'm at a point right now, and listen, this isn't like some idiot saying, well, the Bryce Harper signing has dragged out so long, I don't even care if they get him anymore. But at this point, like, if they bring Gabe Kapler back, how much power and influence is he really going to have? We already know that there's a disconnect in a situation between the front office, what they want, and Gabe Kapler, how much he's actually doing it. So he'd be, I guess, even more neutered or emasculated if that's the case. And if he's out, you start to look around and think, if they can't pry Joe Girardi out of the box, out of the booth, everybody else is going to be gone.
That's the point. So what you're seeing here is, I think, if Klentak and McPhail are still in place, none of those kind of guys, none of the Joe Maddens or the Joe Girardis, who I both think are earmarked for elsewhere anyway.
Okay, so you don't even look at that.
I think Madden's going to the Angels, and I think Girardi's either going to be a Met or a Cub, would be my guess. Now, there's a lot of smoke around Carlos Beltran maybe being the Mets manager, too, but whatever.
How old are we that Carlos Beltran
I know.
is
it's
the
scary.
Mets?
But I think it's going to be one of those two scenarios. But the point is, those guys wouldn't come here and be controlled the way that someone like Gabe is willing to be controlled by this front office.
So this is like, when you say that, I think of Jerry Jones and Jason Garrett. Is that what we're approaching?
No, I don't think it's Jerry Jones owner.
Not owner, but
meddling. I think it's front office quote. They use the nice word collaborative.
The collaboration,
the collaboration on decision making. Whereas the manager isn't as much of his own independent entity as he should be, in my opinion.
Where is that working? That's successful? Honestly, I can't tell you because I don't feel like I know enough. And maybe if I'm putting him on the spot, I apologize. But do we have real life examples of organizations with front offices that are run that way? Where there is a combined effort, and I guess it's more.
I would say
day-to-day.
teams like the A's, teams like the Rays, sort of the Moneyball, lower payroll teams.
Because I don't even feel like we're at a lower payroll element.
No, hell no. That's the difference.
Right?
That's the distinction. You're not. I mean, you spent $400 million last offseason, so it's not. I thought it highly ironic that the Mets bounced their guy when they were 10 games over 500, and Gabe survived. And by the way, Callaway was in his second year, too. Gabe survives as a 500 coach.
Correct.
Which tells me I can't – I'm trying to figure out if John Middleton wanted to fire Gabe when the season ended, was talked out of it by Klentak and McPhail, and now is kind of having second thoughts. I mean, this whole thing looks bad on a guy who was beloved when he landed Bryce Harper, when he closed the Harper deal. It's a bad look.
So I don't know at this point how you get out of it if you retain Kapler, because what's the back and forth about? Like, my point of it is to what you just laid out, which is the what's the term I'm thinking of? Where confusion, but I guess the back and forth where there's no real concrete direction or decision.
The
yet.
idling, sort
indecision.
Of
yes, idling. Thank you. What's that attributed to? 6 or 7 or 10 days down the road when you look back. Because you didn't want to fire him on Rosh Hashanah? I can't see that.
Well, the Angels didn't care. They bounced Brad Osmus on Rosh Hashanah. They had no...
And I said this as a Jew. I've been fired before on a holiday. Like, it happens. You get over it. I've been hired on a holiday, too. Somebody hired me on Yom Kippur. My family almost disowned me. Here's the thing, though. I just... What's the actual reasonable explanation that the city buys? And that has to get over the fact that they're also going to have to deal with people aren't going to like Gabe Kapler coming back. So it's a two-step process. It's, hey, first off, you brought the guy back. Two, what the hell were you deliberating?
You're right. And keep in mind, John Middleton admitted as much that the public played a part in them going Harper instead of Machado. So he clearly listens. So I don't know, man. I don't know maybe the spin is, hey, you guys all assumed that he was leaving, that he was going to be out. We never said anything like that. We didn't say a word. There wasn't anything mentioned because they're all still under contract.
That's a dangerous game to be
playing.
But
he could do that. I mean, I'm not saying there isn't going to be some. I think if he's coming back, there will be an announcement next week of an extension for at least a year. You can't lame duck him into this year.
No.
So that could be the only thing that you see, and that's not going to satisfy Phillies fans who clearly, very clearly showed you at the end of the year, we're not buying this, man.
No.
We're not buying into this.
No, and I agree that there's going to be bedlam because it's going to have to be announced with that extension. And they're going to be – some people just won't understand the nature of that and just get angry. And others will understand all too well, Rob, that they're going to be locked into this guy for at least
another year. Yeah, or at least another year.
All right, Rob Ellis in for Harry Mays. At R Ellis Sports is how you follow Rob on Twitter. A couple of tweets we'll get to at Shander Show. Live at Parks Casino again. ParksCasino.com/PA. Use our promo code SWEEP, and you'll get a risk-free bet of up to $500. You can use that any way you want. As Rob said, it's a huge day for sports today and tonight. So we'll look at what happened with the Braves last night. Ben Simmons had some interesting comments that's made the news now. And
Brett Brown viral. Getting preemptively testy himself.
About Ben Simmons offering up some other stuff.
It's October 4th, man. We're already there?
Listen. All I'll say, we can get into this coming up because the Eagles game will hover, and definitely we'll get back to it. I'm sure not only will Gil tell us to, but we'll get back to it as well. But the reality is that, we do have a ton of Sixers buzz surrounding us, and we're waiting for this hatchet to kind of drop for Gabe Kapler. 609-403-0973. All right, here we go. I realize your audience probably doesn't care, but I like to hear my voice on the radio. How about Aaron friggin' Donald? We in Mean Joe Merlin Olsen territory.
Meaning how great he is.
That's Larry of Lovetron. LOL.
Larry of Lovetron. I like that. There were a couple plays last night. One, there was a sequence in a series. I want to say it was the second quarter last night, where he couldn't have been more dominant. He was literally. It reminds me of Reggie White, the way Reggie White was back in the day with the strength. He literally picks up 300-pound left tackles and just drives them right into the quarterback, or just throws them aside like they're little children. He's as dominant a player in that game as anybody, and that includes any quarterback. He's that great.
Right. But what's amazing is that they've lost two straight. To the Bucs. And listen, that's another thing too. People talking about the call, the Clay Matthews call. Listen, I feel like this is the one sport where I can truly, and again, I'll be a hypocrite when it's our team. It's different because I'll bitch and moan until I'll get 2 weeks worth of content out of it. But I feel like this is the one sport, Rob, where I can just turn my back and say, you know what? There are just so many opportunities in this crazy game, and maybe it's just isolated because we saw a bunch of really bad calls in the NHL playoffs. This Cup final was a little better, but I don't know. Maybe it's just because we spend so much attention to the NFL, but I wasn't even though I lost money on the money line, I still wasn't as upset, I felt like, as so many people about the refs and the calls and everything.
Well, you still, look, even after it happens, you still got to make plays, man. I mean, that's the bottom line. At one point in that last drive, after Seattle scores the Carson juggling touchdown, the Rams are driving down the field. At one point, they get a delay a game. Like, how doesn't Sean McVay get killed for that? And Jared Goff, who's been around long enough. That kind of stuff can't happen. And then you have to, try to get these big chunks of yards just to get yourself in field position. So while it was a bogus, ridiculous call, we see those calls every week, by the way. That's nothing new.
Right.
It's
every game.
Yeah, we're focused on it because it was a Thursday night game. You sift through every single 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock on a Sunday, I guarantee you're going to come up with 7 or 8 of those. That's just the league now.
I agree, man. You're so true. It's so right on that, where it's almost like you'll drive yourself crazy each game. Harry was doing that. Was it Monday night, I think? And I was not making the same argument you are, but you did it better. But I was trying to push him down that road, which is you're going to drive yourself crazy.
Yeah.
Every single game, it's like looking at holding, watching, because we know what we're looking at, watching the line every single time and say, oh, that's holding, that's holding, that's holding. It's like watching a movie. And every single time they cut, knowing that they stopped and reset the whole scene and driving yourself crazy. Oh, that's a cut scene. That's a cut scene. That's a cut. Like, you can't sit there.
It's a part of the game. It sucks, but it's a part of the game now that you almost have to stomach and swallow, and it's awful. And by the way, I hate the review of the pass interference too. The whole thing is just, my God, can we take more rhythm out of this game if possible? Oh, there's our music.
Yeah.
That's our time.
See, that's cute. You know that. So Josh will play the music. Now, normally we'll have about a minute to wrap things up, and usually we go long and everything along those lines.
And you get yelled at.
I get yelled at. Absolutely right. Now, I had a situation happen to me coming in that I need your help with, Rob. I need people on the text board, 609-403-0973.